Hello, happy Monday, and welcome to another episode of 11 Personnel. Adam Luckett here. I think Nick Roush might come on. I don't know for certain. So we sent him the invite. He said he was going to try to hop on. If not, think you'll probably see him there in that chat. So if you're in the chat, say hey. Give us a like. Let me see if you're in there or not. Just hit that like button. How am I supposed to know people are in there? I see there's 45 people watching now, but I only see 2 likes. So how am I supposed to know you're actually there or not paying attention? So hit that like button, and if you are not subscribed to our YouTube channel, please just hit that subscribe button. Help us out here. We're trying to. The more subscribers we get, the better content we can deliver here, and the more interesting videos we can create throughout the season. And so hit that subscribe button if you're not subscribed already. And today, I think we're going to talk a lot of football. Kentucky had their first scrimmage of fall camp. They have 2 scrimmages every camp, and the first one took place on Saturday. Second one was like the final, I think, final rehearsal for the team and the final chance for, I think, players to secure a spot on the depth chart. And so that's where we're at right now. We're going to just we're learning a little bit more each day with this football team and where they are as a program and where they're, what's trending up, what's trending down, and all that. We're just going to dive in to that, and we're also going to talk about some intel we got from the scrimmage. If you're not joined on KSR Plus yet, you missed out this weekend. Zach Gagan's not just the basketball Benny; he's also a football Frank, and he dropped some nuggets for us over there at KS Board. And then Nick and myself also got on there and shared a few things that we were sharing. So make sure you're over there. If you're not, go ahead and join and sign up with us now. No better time to do that than right now with the season getting ramped up and recruiting heating up, and even the basketball has got a lot of recruiting stuff going right now. So fun time to be over there at KS Board and at KSR Plus. And so what I really want to do this evening on Monday, August the 12th, is kind of go through some of that intel that we shared at KS Board and just go through it all and kind of explain maybe at least what I think all of that means. And you go from there. And then I've got a buy or sell segment. So we're going to buy or sell some of these key, I think, developments we've heard of fall camp, whether it be an individual player or a positional unit, or what a positional unit could become this season, or even where depth is at certain positions. So we're going to get into that, and we'll get into that later in the show. But first, we're just going to dive into some intel. But I can't do that without shouting out our good friends at Monticello Bank. 11 Personnel is brought to you by Monticello Bank. They've been in business for 128 years because Monticello Bank is where people matter. With 21 branches in 14 counties across the Commonwealth, visit one of their convenient locations or see how Monticello Bank can finance your future at www.mbcbank.com. Let the good folks and friends of the program at Monticello Bank handle any of your banking needs. They are they might as well be the official Bluegrass Bank with 21 branches across 14 counties. They are here to help you. So no matter your banking need, whether big or small, go check out our friends at Monticello Bank and see how they can help you at mbcbank.com. So now we're just going to kind of get into some scrimmage intel here, and we'll break it all down. First, punt to win. Is punt to win back for Kentucky football? Do we have another Ray Guy winner? I'm not so sure about that, but I think this pickup by special teams coordinator Jay Boulware is going to end up being significant. Like one of the biggest, I think, kind of storylines coming out of this camp was like, whoa, this punter can play. And I think he was very impressive on Saturday, and I think he's been impressive. And I've been hearing good things about what he's been doing in camp. Just to put it in numbers, in just as easy as I can, Kentucky sat at 38.98 yards per punt last year. Laros averaged 47.3. That's almost 9 yards per punt more, almost a first down more. He is hitting the ball farther than what Kentucky has averaged punting wise, at least last season. I think it's important to remember that Kentucky is a pro-style special teams organization, really kind of a pro-style program when you kind of look at their offense, defense, and special teams, what they base it off of. And punting works the same. This guy's a pocket punter, but like you can, if you go and put Aiden Laros into the YouTube machine, you will see the Georgia game highlights pop up, and you can see some of his potential. Whether it's bombing 50 yards, he's got a punt from right around midfield that he wedges inside the 5. The ball just takes a nice little backspin and lets him down it. So he's got some tools here, and I think there's really reasons to be excited about him. He's also got a kickoff specialist history, and I think the kicking game overall is in really good shape entering the season. Alex Rayner, Mark Stoops said he missed a couple of field goals, which is uncharacteristic, but we've seen Jacob Cowie at the open practices, and I know there's that video going around, I think, on Instagram and Twitter about him hitting that 55-yarder, but he's got a boot. That ball really explodes off his foot. And then you've got the Barian Brown factor, right, as a kickoff returner. So you look at, if you got to upgrade the punting game, you got a dependable kicker, and you got Barian Brown at returns, like this could be the most well-rounded, I think, third phase in the Mark Stoops era. Because if you go back and remember, like the Duffy years was after Austin McGinnis, so Kentucky had like place kicking problems at that time, mainly distance, like anything over 40 they had a hard time with, where I think this year they could be in a better shape, put both field goal kicking in the return game and then in punting. And I think we talked about this on the last episode. Average field position was a really key factor for that 2018 defense, and that's something Kentucky has suffered at recently. I think they could get that back, and that can change and have a big impact on this football team because Kentucky's given up too much hidden yards, and I think that was a big factor last year. And so Laros, start get the punt to win shirts out, because I think we might have something here. And he's also got some flexibility. Was a backup kicker at one point. Again, we mentioned the kickoff specialist history, so I think we can get excited about this new punter in the Bluegrass. And it also sounded like Demi Sumo-Karngbaye. It's looking like the RB2 right now. And we thought that Jason Patterson was a guy, or it was a guy we were monitoring closely. As Evan Atwell says, special teams will win or lose a game every year. I think that's right. Our guy Stephen Peak has a take, or not even a take, just some data that Kentucky's missed an extra point, at least 1 or 2 extra points, or a field goal been blocked every year. And so that's been kind of a issue for them, and if they can fix that this year. I think Rayner missed an extra point week 1 or against Florida. I think one game early, and then was, I think, rock solid after that. So yeah, if they can fix that, make a more clean operation, I definitely think they've got a chance to really make a strong impact on this football team. And again, Demi Sumo-Karngbaye, back to the former NC State transfer. Sounds like he's RB2 in the spring game. I think they were impressed with kind of his pass catching ability, and we talked to him about that on Monday. We'll have some more on Sumo-Karngbaye later in the week at KSR. But going into Hamden's play calling history, Ashton Jeanty had 43 receptions at Boise State last year. In 2018 at Washington, their two tailbacks combined for 42 receptions. So Hamden has shown in his offense that he's willing to throw the football to the tailback. And so I think Sumo-Karngbaye could have a significant role here, kind of as a pass catcher. And I think he's Kentucky's RB2 right now. And we're going to get to Kentucky's younger backs later, but it sounds like they were promising in that scrimmage. Then out at receiver, Fred Farrier, Harley Gilmore really impressed. Here, we're still kind of waiting to see if Gilmore was the injured party and if he's going to be out a certain amount of time. But they were talking about him glowingly on Monday when we talked about Bush Hamden and some of the offensive players there after Kentucky's practice. And I think Harley Gilmore is really pushing for that wide receiver 4 job. This guy is a future cornerstone of this Kentucky offense, I believe. Usually receivers, at least I'm of the opinion, you can tell pretty early with them, their first or second year, what they're going to be. And with Gilmore, the early signs are really, really positive. I think we saw this too. It's like Dane Keys was able to impress and play right away. I think these receivers, a lot of times, you're able to know year 1, year 2, what you're going to get from them. And I think really happy to hear about Gilmore. Players and coaches gushed about him. I think even when I saw him in the open practice, he was getting after it from a blocking perspective. There was one time he blocking Ryan Nichols 10-ish yards down the field, was mixing it up with J.Q. Hardaway. Kind of a well-rounded player that they really like. And then, he's young. He's learning how to treat his body from a nutrition aspect. Jamari Macklin told us today a funny story. He said, this guy, he goes out and eats cereal before a practice, and then he gets out there and he's like, I'm tired, man. He's like, well, no, you gotta eat something. You gotta eat a heavier breakfast and a bowl of cereal before we come out here in this heat. And so there's stuff he's still learning. He's still a very young kid, reclassified, but there's a lot of early signs for him. And for Fred Farrier, it seems like he's still working with the twos. I'm not sure how many true reps he's getting with the ones yet, but there are definitely some David Bouvier vibes I'm getting with Farrier in this camp. Now, you go back to 2018, Bouvier was a guy that when you followed that camp, he just kept making plays. And he kind of forced the Kentucky staff to play him that year, and that ended up leading to him being a big part of that 2018 offense. Everyone remembers the touchdown he caught against Florida, and then he caught that ball up the seam against Missouri, which was a big part of that comeback that season. He was a big part of the offense as a receiver, playing out of the slot. And I think Farrier could potentially have a similar role of a guy that in a backup role who's got some flexibility, positional versatility, and he's forcing coaches to really kind of recognize him and potentially play him this fall. So that's where I think he is, and he's emerging as, I think, a key reserve there for that Kentucky receiver room. And then Kentucky posted a highlight clip, I believe, on Monday afternoon of just kind of some quick scrimmage highlights, and you saw some of the young guys on there. Willie Rodriguez had a big run and catch. He's been a guy they were really high on in the recruiting process. I think that's played out on the field early. He didn't enroll until the summer, but I think he's pushing for playing time right now. And Josh Caddis has been banged up early in camp, and I think that's created more opportunities, I think, for the true freshman. Willie Rodriguez is, again, I think, a guy they have a bright future, and it looks like on another tight end that they're going to hit on. And so he's a guy I think you can watch. And then Jason Patterson still getting positive reviews. So we'll see how that kind of plays out once the season gets here. But he's definitely going to be in the mix, I think, there at tailback. And Bush Hamdan even said today, and I think Mark Stoops said Saturday, that they are going to have a rotation at tailback. Now, we've heard that before, and we thought all last year they would have a rotation. That did not play out with Ray Davis kind of seizing that job. But a lot of that, to me, was the lack of plays. If you're only running 55 plays a game, of course you don't really need to take your star tailback out very often. But here, I think they're going to run more plays, and so I think you're going to see a heavier snap count distribution there at that running back room. And so one of these freshmen, whether it's Patterson or Jamarian Wilcox, which we'll get into here in a little bit, one of these guys is going to play a big role this year. And then some more reports regarding Gavitt Wimsatt, that he's really going to have kind of a role. And I was told that the offense looked different in the scrimmage when Wimsatt was out there. It was kind of a different offense, kind of a Wildcat type of look offense. Is he Kentucky's Taysom Hill? Is he going to have some type of Taysom Hill role? Is Bush Hamdan, Sean Payton, what's going on here? I definitely think there's going to be some type of gadget package for him. I'm not really sure what that looks like, but they're definitely, I think, going to have some type of role. Now, how big it is, we'll have to see. I think Brock Vandagriff's going to have a lot to do with that and how he plays. But there's definitely going to be a role, I think, for Wimsatt, specifically in short yardage, and they're going to have him involved. And he might be Kentucky's Taysom Hill. And then another guy to emerge in, Drew Franklin is not going to let us hear the end of this if this guy ends up being really good. Drew at one of the open practices said, man, who is that? That guy, he looks really, really good. And that was Kendrick Gilbert, a redshirt freshman I think a lot of people forgot about. But I think he's really seizing this opportunity and taking advantage of what this fall camp has presented with those injuries in Kentucky's defensive line room. So I think he is really pushing for playing time. Keyshawn Silver told us last week that that's the one guy we need to watch out for. He's a totally different person than last year. And I think when these developments happen, I think it's very important to kind of go back and revisit what these players were as recruits and as prospects coming out of high school. And for Gilbert, this was a guy who had legitimate interests. I think all you listeners know how I feel about Iowa's defense and their defensive operation. We can get into offense jokes, but defensively, they know what they're doing. Phil Parker is an incredible defensive coordinator, and they pump out good college and pro defensive linemen all the time. And Gilbert was an Iowa recruit. And Brian Kelly was also interesting. LSU. He ended up committing to Purdue and flipping to Kentucky, but he's an intriguing looking player, tall, 6'5". Now weight's the big question for him. Can he hold it up at that nose tackle spot? I believe they listed him at right around 270, 280 right now. So that's still an unknown, but Kentucky's going to need bodies, and they're going to need guys to steal snaps. And he looks like a guy, or sounding like that. He's going to be a guy that they're going to play this year, and that's a really good development. That was a good recruiting win for Kentucky and Indianapolis, and I think that's a very, very good thing for the program right now. And then I think we shift over to cornerback. DJ Waller Jr. was a surprise scratch in the scrimmage on Saturday. Mark Stoops said it's nothing major. He even said that it was like on a Friday after practice, getting extra work in is when Waller, tweaked something. We're not sure what. Sounded like a lower body type injury. So he didn't get to play. And so that presented opportunities, I think, for these veterans with talking Jansen Dunn and J.Q. Hardaway, because we know Maxwell Harrison is starting at the other corner spot. And I think right now I would say Dunn is a favorite to open the season as the starting cornerback. He was a guy they were really happy with in spring practice. Sounds like that has continued over. But there is some J.Q. Hardaway buzz building during camp. Timmy Seymour Carnbay said he was a guy that has impressed him so far this year. So there is some buzz building for him. And Terion Nichols, there's some buzz for him as well, the true freshman out of Cincinnati, a lot of people like. And on that highlight package, you see Terion Nichols getting a PBU in the end zone. And so he's a guy that's probably going to play some this year. And I wrote something at KSR regarding Hardaway on Sunday, and it was basically like Hardaway explained to us that last year didn't go as he wanted it to go. And he was pretty upfront with that. But he also acknowledged that, Coach Collins, he appreciated all the hard work. He committed to him and stayed with him throughout the season. And he really was thankful of Collins for doing that and for sticking with him. And his big goal this season is to reward Kentucky's coaching staff patience and for sticking with him. So he came off as a really motivated player in that Q&A session he had with the media. So I'm very intrigued to see what he can bring to the defense this year, because he has that size that they don't really have outside of Waller for them. And so he's going to be a key cog, I think, for this defense. And Terion Nichols was a big-time recruit, like the top 250 guy, top, I believe, 5 or top 10 player in Ohio. So hitting on him, I think, is significant. So cornerback, Waller is still going to be in the mix there, but we've seen Kentucky with kind of these late spring transfer additions that they give sometimes the incumbents like the chance to start at the beginning of the season. We saw it with Andrew Phillips starting over Keidron Smith 2022. And then last year, Cortland Ford was brought in to be the starting tackle, but Jeremy Flax kind of held him off. But if you remember early in that season, that was still a competition. And I believe Flax started week 1 and they let Ford start week 2, and they were kind of rotating, but then Flax kind of earned that job. And so I think we could see something similar play out here where Dunn and Hardaway are going to get long looks and Waller's going to get a chance to overtake them. But I think him missing this scrimmage is kind of significant in that regard. So we'll see how that plays out long term. But the interesting part with this season is the big game coming in week 2 against South Carolina. Like, you've got to make a decision fast. And with Keidron Smith, they gave him 1 week, and then Keidron Smith was out there starting against Florida in week 2. Do we see something similar? I think it's possible. Now, Waller was not as accomplished and didn't have the experience that Smith had when he came over from Ole Miss. So we'll have to see how they handle that. But I do think they are going to be probably more willing to play guys at that CB2 spot. They're going to want Harrison on the field as much as possible. But I think we could see a decent rotation there at cornerback 2 as the season progresses. And so now I just want to shift into, like, this buy or sell segment is really just, there's some storylines developing. And I want to make some takes on these storylines. So I'm going to do my best Stephen A. Smith, I guess, here. My best Skip Bayless, even though he's a free agent. Maybe we can get Skip Bayless rotating guest here on 11 Personnel. We could come over here. We could throw our Cowboys gear in the trash can. Oh, did I just see somebody pop up there?
Hey!
What's up?
Oh, we've got Stephen A. Luckett ready for some takes.
You're joining at the perfect time. We're next up on First Take. we're going to talk about why less means more for Iowa
Dude,
football. Why they should not play a quarterback this year.
can I just say, I'm for one, I feel like the whenever there's like a we go behind enemy lines to say them in a movie, this feels like my transmission right now, where I'm in a war zone, just stretched and clawing and trying to get out. And I'm coming up for mayor, and every time I get on to like a message board or a group chat, there's some wild takes going on right now. Have people? Is this what we do in August? We just get a little antsy and we start freaking out? Or like it?
Yeah, I think it's just the point in the calendar where we don't know what to do with our hands. Like, we don't know what's real and we don't know what's fake. And that's why I wanted to do this buy or sell, because what is what is the fake storyline we're getting fed, and what is the like real storyline we're getting fed? And what's interesting this year is, like, specifically Kentucky football, we don't really know how to read Bush Hamden yet, right?
No, yeah.
Like, I don't know what, like, is this really like what he believes or what he will say in this instance or not? And so we're trying to read in between the lines. And I think Brock Vandagriff is kind of the biggest in all of this. Like, are they playing coy, or are they nervous, or what's kind of going on here? And so yeah, but I do think from the take standpoint, like, obviously, like, we get the top 25 out.
Mm-hmm.
Louisville people are upset because they're not ranked in the top 5, I guess. And then you've just got, you got stuff everywhere, right? USC was ranked too low, yada yada yada. Ohio State's not number 1. I'm sure some people in Columbus are
Yeah,
upset about that. But
I'm
yeah,
sure.
it's take season. Like, everybody's 0-0.
The thing that I didn't realize, like it, is that some schools actually let people watch the scrimmage, which that's wild. Like Auburn was one of them where that shocked me. Hugh Freeze does not strike me as the type that's just like, yeah, come watch our entire scrimmage. But that happened in multiple places. So we're just kind of going off what we've heard, and I haven't heard a ton, but that's why I'm excited to buy or sell with you, because I'm just buying Brock Vandagriff stocks. Because I have it's not, there's no other choice. I've heard good things. I've seen good things too. Like, our eyeballs have been like, yeah, he's pretty good. Now, is it Will Levis? Is it better than Will Levis? I don't know. Like, what exactly does that production look like? Like, we nobody knows. And pissing in the wind right now ain't going to help nothing. I,
Sure.
I do understand where some people might be selling, because Bush does seem to really like Gavin Wimsatt, but people, that's a thing. We have quarterbacks that we like. Like, no offense to Gunnar Hoke or Kai Sharon or Danny Clark, but like, guys, there was no alternatives for the longest time. Like, there are legit alternatives now. I think that's a good thing. I don't know how you can spin that as a bad thing. I can't see it any other way.
Yeah, speaking of working take season, I've got one. Like, the big word about Kentucky is, like, this is one of Stoops' best rosters.
Mm-hmm.
But I also realize, like, the era we're living in, this should be one of your best rosters comparatively, because you have more roster building resources now with the portal and with NIL, right? Like,
Yeah.
you can fill holes a lot easier for teams.
Yeah. Whereas, like, they had to go to JUCO to get Steven Johnson, Terry Wilson, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I think, like, top end teams, like, maybe they don't have the offensive guard depth that they used to have, or the defensive tackle depth. But then I see a team like Ole Miss who has a good NIL situation, and they're just able to load up. So for me, I think if you went in the SEC, there's, like, Kentucky is making this case, but I think there's probably 5 or 6 other schools that feel like their roster is as good as it's been in a few years, at least. And so I know we were putting a lot of stock in that, I think. But I'm wondering, is that just a sign of is it just kind of the times, right?
Yeah. Well, and also it's year 12 in a tenure, and you recruited. I mean, the defensive line, you stacked up back-to-back really good classes. Or I guess it wasn't back-to-back, but 20 and 22 were awesome recruiting classes. You held on, like, yeah. You've teed it up. You've got all these fifth-year guys from 20 on the defensive line. You've got a bunch of really good third-year players that have played a lot of football here. Like that's kind of how it works. So yeah, I'm with you. Are you buying the Brock Vandagriff hype like it? I don't know if you or I think just the bigger question for me is I just don't know. Like, yes, I'm buying it that he's going to be a good starting quarterback, but like I don't know if that means he's going to be a future pro. But like, he's going to be pretty good, I think.
Yeah, in short, yes. I think to me, Nick, the Georgia track record is real at quarterback. So I'm willing to like sprinkle a little bit on that. If we're playing beat the dealer, I'm rolling with the Georgia personnel. Like so,
it just dawned on me too because you talked about Jacob Eason all the time. Hamden at Washington, Jacob Eason, former Georgia quarterback. Like
right. I mean, there's been one that was a miss with Dwan Mathis. Every other one has been a really good starting quarterback. Eason is still hanging around practice squads.
Mm-hmm.
And Stetson Bennett is winning NFL games while throwing 4 interceptions.
Dude, that highlight he had
turned it into Mahomes.
Was wild. It was wild. But Fields, I guess sorry to your wife. Maybe throw him out. But he won a bunch of ball games too.
So he signed with someone today.
Good for him.
The Lions. Yeah, the Lions signed him. He's going to be up there with my guy, Man Campbell. Just a bunch of grit.
Love it.
But yeah, I also think, Nick, system fit here. I think this offense really fits Brock Vandagriff. Demi Sumo-Carnway talked today about kind of his legs and his athleticism as a quarterback that's going to factor in here. And I think this quote from Butch Hamden, because we hadn't really heard him go out on the record for Brock yet. It's been a lot of he's talented, he's got intangibles, but he's a hard worker, but we're taking it day by day, step by step. And really the end of this quote, I think, is notable because it's been a little bit different than what we've heard. Extremely steady. He's a guy that knows what he wants to do, is really playing a consistent brand of football. Certainly, things we want to take the next step on with him, but he has been a guy since we've got here that just keeps getting better and better. I think he's got a really good grasp of this thing. We're excited to turn him loose. Coming off the scrimmage and coming off Mark Stoops saying it was good, he's got the tools, yada, 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 but it was good to see the tools play out. Yeah. I was kind of paraphrasing Stoops' quote there. But he did what we thought
he could do.
What we've heard is that he was really impressive in that camp. It sounds like he's gotten better each day. And I think play style wise, what he's going to do, and a big element for him, I think, is going to kind of be playmaking, secondary creation out of system, and then also keep playing on time within the structure of the offense. I think he's doing that, and I think there's reasons to get excited because he's going to be able to run that rock, and that's going to be a nice wrinkle for the offense. It's really going to help out that run game.
Brock can tote the rock. I liked what you said. You mentioned Demi Sumo-Carnway because I'm sorry. My mind is still just kind of mushy right now with times and kids. And gosh, the other kids, they're the problem. It's not the baby. I can deal with the baby. It's the other kids that are the issue. But I believe it was on the board where somebody said Demi Sumo-Carnway had a good day. And you pointed out, like, if you watch Brock, like, he did it in the spring game. He did it at Georgia. Like, there's not this sort of hesitation to take the layup. And that's a good thing with a guy like DSK, right? Like, oh, hey,
sure, yeah.
When in doubt, like, just get 4 or 5 yards. Like, let's dump it off and let's make some moves. So that's a part of the offense that we hadn't really talked about a lot because it's not sexy to talk about dump offs to the running back or scrambling for 4 or 5 yards. But it goes back to the first thing I hit on as soon as last season ended, and that was just the lack of efficiency offensively. And when instead of 30 yards or 0 yards or negative yards, it's okay. Let's just stay ahead of the chains here, and that was good to know that was coming from the scrimmage as well.
Yeah, and it sounds like, Nick, explosive plays. It sounds like they hit on a few in that scrimmage.
We saw we don't know one. Yeah,
right. We don't know how much ones versus ones or ones versus twos there was, so you kind of have to take everything kind of with a grain of salt. But Last year, Kentucky, the only team that had as many 50-plus yard plays as them in the SEC, had the Heisman Trophy winner at quarterback, had 2 first-round receivers, and they had a tackle that's probably going to go top 15 in this next upcoming draft. That was the LSU Fighting Tigers. But the problem was Kentucky was in the hundreds in success rate, so it was boom or bust. So I think, Hamdan talked about this today, there's still going to be that slugging percentage element of the offense. They're still going to hit doubles in the gap. They're going to leave the park with some home runs, but they want that batting average to get up.
Yeah,
they don't want it. They were down below 200 last year, and so they were very boomer bust. They were Adam Dunn at the end of his career, so they want to get that average up, and then if you get the efficiency and the explosiveness, that's all the best offenses can do both. And Kentucky can only do one last year. And there's been times in the Stoops era where they could only do the efficiency. They had problems creating explosives. Dating back to Mark Stoops' luncheon, he talked about, we want to run the football, we want to be efficient, but we've got playmakers too, and we got to feed the studs, essentially. And so I think they like how explosive they can be, but they do have to find that down-to-down efficiency that they've been missing. But a guy who can help that explosiveness, Nick, is Jamarian Wilcox. And apparently he's making a push here.
We're buying or selling it.
Had a good scrimmage on Saturday. Bush Hamdan and Demi McCormick both spoke positively about Wilcox. Even Mark Stoops said something about him, or I believe Brock Vandegrift said something about him positive on Saturday. So, Nick, are you buying the Wilcox hype again? We've already done the Wilcox hype once. Then he kind of disappeared as a true freshman. Yeah. Now he's back, and we know the skill set. We could go back and watch the high school tape if we want. Well, the rap was he's got this explosive skill set, and Hamdan runs the Drinkwitz offense, which there's going to be stretch zone in that. And with stretch zone, you can hit. Tyler Beatty led the league in rushing, running that stretch zone, and a lot of it was creating explosive runs. I think Wilcox got a similar play style to Tyler Beatty. Not saying he's going to lead the league in rushing, but you could see the positional, I think, or the schematic fit with him in this scheme. And he seems like a guy making a move. So are you buying the Wilcox hype?
So part of the reason I'm going to initially sell is because he is very much in my prove it to me phase, because that's what he's been in for the last 8 months. Wilcox has never lacked talent. It's been a maturity thing, right? It's being the stud your whole life and nobody ever having to make you do things the hard way. And so you learn pretty quickly in the SEC, this is kind of hard. You got to show up to things on time. You got to be there. You got to go to class. You got to do things the right way. He did not go about his business the right way when he first got here. And it's enlightening to hear it. I also don't like when you're getting the because admittedly, Stoops, you and I, we were both really high on this kid right off the jump. And I don't like putting those basically I got to the point where I've forgot about him, and anything you get from him is bonus. So I don't want people to expect him to be Boom Williams because he's fast and can be fast. Honestly, Ray Davis, he's Boom Williams. Right? They did this the same thing.
And you could argue he's Boom Williams with hands. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Boom couldn't catch a cold. It's just Booms were a little bit, and even you think Booms are more dramatic and flashy. That touchdown that Ray had when Leary was getting sacked, that was just as crazy as Boom flipping the field at Florida. But I digress. I got a little carried away there. I think Wilcox has the opportunity to be a good player, but I'm not going to expect anything from him until it happens. It's just, you go show me. I'd love to see it, but you gotta show it to me, because I think Chip is still Chip ain't rolling over, right? You can trust Demi McCormick to catch the ball. So and we heard Jason Patterson all spring. So there's you got to keep stacking these up. One good scrimmage and a couple good practice does not get you to be the man, right? Because here's the other part too. We saw Smoke have moments where he looked great as well, but they're flashes in the pan, right? So that's what I need more consistency to be able to buy this hype.
Yeah, I would say I'm selling right now, but I would overcharge on
Oh
this.
yeah, yeah. You're
Like
trying
I
to
would
make a
sell it
profit.
for $1.70 on $1 because I don't necessarily want someone to buy this. I would like to hold on to it maybe for a little bit longer, but if I was forced, I would say sell. So like I'm the owner of the Timberwolves, where I'm saying I'm selling, but I'm not really selling here.
People forget that he sold the team, but then just didn't once they got good.
Yeah, just like I'm good.
Yeah.
Y'all go.
Sorry,
See you later,
A-Rod.
A-Rod. So that's where, because he's still a young player, and it
Yeah.
might have just the light might flipped on for him. So, but I do want to see it in let's see it in the game.
Yeah.
And like, is this talk like is he earning snaps, or is he just
they
or
do
is he
this to
just
keep him
getting it,
happy?
or is he just playing right now because they only have 4 scholarship tailbacks, right?
Yeah.
Is he just getting reps in practice because they just don't have the bodies? So yeah, I would say sell right now, but I am overcharging this stock because I would like to keep it for a little bit longer. Next one, wide receiver depth. Nick, how do you are you buying or selling Kentucky's wide receiver depth?
I'm selling, which brings us to David Decker chimed in on the super chat. S2's injured. Is that out there? Or, it was on the board. Does that count? Do we
The Gilmore?
Yeah. Is that Stoops probably won't say nothing until Saturday, but it's
We
out
don't
there.
know definitively till Saturday.
Yeah, I mean,
multiple outlets, including ourselves,
yes,
have reported that behind paywalls.
Yes, that broken collarbone, out for 2.5 months, give or take. Most likely a red shirt. It's what was Stoops' phraseology for Gadsden and Josiah Hayes? Miss a significant time, more than likely out. Was it more than likely
out for more than likely for the season?
Yeah,
but
yeah.
wouldn't there's a gray area he likes to live in with injury updates, and so he just stayed in the gray area, even though he told us they were out for the season.
Yeah, so I'm gonna say that Gilmore, they're probably like, this kid's 17, supposed to be starting a senior year of high school. Let's just use a red shirt on him. And it goes, so I'm selling the wide receiver depth. I mean, it's not that I don't like the wide receivers, but like it makes me think that a lot of 12 personnel is on the way. The quote that Hamden gave to end the press conference, I forgot who I guess it was a question from our pal Jeff Drummond, and the way Hamden put it, he was like, it's not about are you number 1 or 2 on the wide receiver depth chart, like you're competing against other positions for reps. I think they're just going to play a lot of 12 personnel and then run like 2 dudes in at a time at a receiver, right? Like, and you can do some mix max combinations, but that's where I'm selling it.
That is easier in when you're talking about it rather in practice. Like it's not necessarily easy to like get away with running 12 all the time. Like eventually you got to spread people out and throw the ball. So you need some wide receiver depth. I'm concerned about the lack of Anthony Brown-Stevens chatter. Really has been nothing about him. We saw him make that nice play in camp, and we've got that highlight. I'm sure you've seen on our B-roll, and like it's on the highlights if you want to go to our YouTube channel and check that out. But there's just not been a lot of talk about him. It's really been the big three, and then it's been Harley Gilmore and Fred Farrier.
Yeah, I do like the Farrier. My Farrier take is just he's a Bouvier, Charles Walker. Like, I don't think he's ever going to be flashy, but he's going to be a steady Eddie that makes a couple plays and key moments that end up making a difference at some point. That's my Farrier take.
I mentioned earlier he's got David Bouvier in 2018 vibes. Of a guy that just kept making plays, was with the twos most of it, but kind of forced the coaching staff to play him.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of where Farrier, I feel like he is at right now. And then Anthony Brown-Stevens, I guess he's the backup slot. We don't really know. I mean, he could be having a good camp. We just haven't really heard anything. So that's where I am. I would sell, Nick. Just, they don't have enough scholarship guys in this room. They only have 8 players like on scholarship on this roster. And Brandon White does not look like a guy that's going to be able to contribute.
Yeah.
And then David Washington, I think, is headed to a redshirt season. And so that gets you down to 6 guys.
Yeah.
And you just lost one potentially for the year or for a long time in Harley Gilmore. We'll see the severity of this collarbone, what it actually is.
Right.
But I'm really worried about their depth at receiver right now. And if Macklin or Key sprains an ankle
Yep.
in
Or
week
like you had
three,
the Dorian Baker hamstring that had him out
or
forever. Yeah.
like the Jones or DeAndre Square, how they got injured and it just lingered for half the season, right?
Yeah.
2 years ago, where they really couldn't get back. If that happens
Mm-hmm.
to one of these receivers, it's troublesome. It
Yeah.
really is.
Mm-hmm. Whew. Yeah. But I still like the big three, though. It's a good three. It's a good three.
Yeah, but if they stay healthy, you're fine. I do agree with that. But that's and that is one thing I think with Berrien and Dane so far in their career, that their durability's been good for them. I mean, there's been complaints about they need to get stronger, this and that, but durability has been a strength for both of those players so far, and Kentucky needs that to remain a strength this fall.
Question for you, Luckett. Because this is I didn't get to do this. It was a little disappointing. It's one of my favorite things to do. Is just seeing the guys in person. I know you and Peak both remarked that Dane Key did look noticeably different. First off the bus, who we got besides Big Dion? Who's looking good out there in shorts?
Yeah, I mean Gerald Mincy is a massive, massive man. So if you're going for just size, I would say him. Gavin Wimsett, is put together.
Okay,
6'3",
that's
230. Chip Trainum is put together.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of some potential other guys who could.
I mean, JJ Weaver. I mean, he looks huge right now.
Fierbury didn't scrimmage though that fan day, did he? He wasn't out there.
He was dealing with what looked like to be a soft tissue injury. Pop Dumas Johnson just for the beard and the old man strength energy he gives off. And did you see his clip about the heat when I asked him about it being hot? He's like, it ain't hot out here. It ain't hot. Yeah. And I tell my teammates that too. It ain't hot. And who's to tell him he's wrong, So him, definitely.
It's like what's his name? That's like you when it's cold. And it's not cold, it's football weather. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a mindset. I agree with him 100%. You just it's not cold.
Oh man. Who we got next by ourselves?
The pass rush. Will it be a top end pass rush this year? Will Kentucky have they're not going to have Josh Allen 2018, but are they going to be a team that's like a top 20 sack team? Like a team that's really going to factor as a pass rushing unit? Because I think that's kind of the expectation. I think people are just like, oh, we got Deion Walker, veteran defensive line. They're just going to be a really good pass rushing unit. So buy or sell.
I'm going to buy it based on two conditions. One, Fierbury, it's not that I've heard anything. It's a belief. But the combination of Ox and I really like Gerard. What's the twins' last name? Yeah, I'm
Smith.
sorry. Yeah, there we go. Smith. One of the 17 Smiths. Should have just rolled the dice there. But it's not just the guys getting better up front for me. A lot of it just comes down to the guys behind him. And I don't know what it was the other day when I was doing the mental gymnastics of all this, but it's crazy. They only had one dude with any experience really at all last year who going into the season. It was Drew Phillips. And
yes, yeah.
It's so hard to just believe and say.
And he was
out
a
loud.
Reserve at that, right?
Right. He played nickel for a lot of his career too. So that this year you've got 3 guys who had that kind of Drew Phillips experience where Jansen Dunn and JQ Hardaway played a lot as quarterback 3 towards the tail end of last year and just playing off period. Harrison's got a year under his belt. DJ Waller played 10 games. I think just having a better secondary that can help you on that end too. You're forcing the quarterback to hold on to the ball a little bit longer because he doesn't have dudes just wide open right away, right? He's got to get to his second read. That gives him a little bit longer. And I think that was maybe as big a part of the issue with the pass rush last year at all, because it felt like they did a good job of bothering the quarterback, but just not getting home. And that's the ultimate final boss is getting home. So you know what? I'm buying. I'm buying the hype.
Yeah, I'm going to sell on this being
Mm.
like this top end pass rushing unit. And to me, it's mostly like personnel and body types. Like they really need like a edge rusher, right? Like that's what they're really missing. And Walker, it's going to have all this gravity, but they really need, I think, an edge rusher. And I don't know if anyone outside Fearbury can provide a consistent edge rush on this front. And I'm a little worried that he's injured in camp he missed some time that we know of. So
Hmm.
I'm a little worried about that, and he's got to go out and prove it in a larger sample size. So I think they're going to be a good pass rushing unit, but I don't know that necessarily we're going to look up and be like, man, this is like a top 20 pass rushing unit or top 25 pass rushing unit. I think it's going to be good, but I think ultimately I think there's going to be some frustration with the pass rush because I just don't know. Like this is more. I mean, to me, they're more built to just kind of play the front, stop the run, and then Walker can get after your ass as a pass rusher. But outside of him, I just don't know if there's going to be enough, and I don't know if he's just going to be enough of a total absolute game record to open up a bunch of stuff for everyone else. So I would sell that
Mm.
right now, based mostly off. I just don't know if they've got that edge rush that they need, and I think a lot is riding on Tyrese Fearbury.
He's got to put the fear of God in him. He's got to put the fear of God in him. What do we got next, Mr. Luckett?
Yeah, final one here. The more man coverage talk. Like, are you buying that Kentucky's going to play a lot of man coverage this year?
I'm buying that they'll play about it. Like they'll play it just like they've always played it. I mean, I get frustrated with the talk because a lot of it comes down to one play, right? Like, and it comes down to here's the other thing: how many times do you just watch other teams walked up and press, or even if you're in man? Like, I think a normal man coverage, you're lining up like 7 yards off, right? Unless you're pressing, right? Am I crazy? Isn't that kind of usual, or
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess it depends on your style.
Yeah, I think they're going to play. I mean, maybe slightly more because they've got the guys to do it. But a lot of just the secondary issues, I think, are on the inconsistency at safety last year. Because Childress and Lovett did not have the years we expected. Part of that was due to injuries. You had to play a true freshman and Ty Bryant a ton. Well, now Ty Bryant's got like a year full of reps under his belt. He played in, I want to say, 50 snaps in a game last year as a true freshman at
Well,
safety.
there was like 4 or 5 SEC games in a row. I think he played 40 plus snaps.
Yeah, which is crazy. And there was even if Stoops, for as much crap as we give him, like he kind of is who he is. Because I've even talked to him, like, you know, guards off, like, all right, so what's the difference in these guys? And like, it really is the case for the safeties, live reps. So I remember Derek West when he had all those injuries, right? He comes back his junior year, and there was like 2 long balls like it where he just took bad angles on, and I don't think he ever got beat ever again. Like a lot of these guys, they just need reps. Well, Christian Story's got a ton of them. Lovett and Childress, they got more of them. Ty Bryant, he's got a lot more of them. So I think the secondary is going to be much improved in zone coverage, so you're not going to field as much because those guys are just they got a better feel for it. They aren't just natural, instinctual guys like Mike Edwards, who's just like, throw him out there. That dude's going to find a way to get to the ball, see ball, hit ball, make a play. So I think the pass coverage is going to be better, but I'm selling any sort of like drastic, we're going to walk up a ton of man. I think it's going to be about what you normally did. They'll probably blitz a little bit more because it's kind of like last year when they didn't play any man coverage, but like Trevin Wallace led the SEC in sacks for the first 6 weeks of the season because they were just bringing him on dogs and locking up, and he was getting their ass on those delayed blitzes. They're going to do that with D-Jack and Pop. Like it's going to happen, but I just don't think they're going to be this man team all of a sudden.
Yeah, I think with Pop, the situational pressures or the
Mm-hmm.
simulate pressures, excuse me, when you're dropping one, bringing one, you're only bringing 4, but you're doing it in different ways. He was really good at that at Georgia, so I think he's going to play the role. I think, Nick, if you go and watch the 2020 defense, and you go and watch the 2022 defense, Kelvin Joseph and Carrington Valentine playing in the boundary, and on third downs they played more man than you would think because they felt like they had a guy who could win one on
Yeah.
one.
Right.
There, go watch the 2 fourth downs against Florida at the end of the game. They're locked up in man. Even in what it appeared to, I think, was
Brad White played man to man. You're lying, like it. There's no way.
go the Vandy game. They kind of had to play man a lot because they were getting sliced by Mike Wright in the QB run, and like some of those big plays they gave up at the end were either Hairston or Valentine kind of locked up in isolation. So I think when they have guys that they have confidence in, they're going to play that more. Now, I think them saying that to me was a statement of we believe in Max Hairston. Like, we're going to give him opportunities.
I would too. I'd let him eat.
So I think to me, I'm buying in certain situations. So like specifically where I think this is going to be an emphasis for them is on third downs. I think last year they got frustrated with their lack of third down success, and I think a lot of times they were trying to hide, I think, their secondary, in putting them in zones, and really cornerback too was kind of the problem because you got to slide Phillips in the nickel, and then they had just had cornerback 2 problems all year. They had a revolving door there opposite. Once they had to slide Phillips inside, when they had to go to the next cornerback, they just had a revolving door. I think they feel better about that situation this year. I think they got Hairston on the other side, and I think on third down, you're going to see them get more aggressive to get off the field. And maybe I'm not going to say get blitz heavy, but see them maybe be more willing to maybe bring pressure on a down.
Bring
like
on the
that.
blitz.
But I also think like they're not going to get away from their pattern matching in their zone tendencies. They're still going to play a lot of that. Like, I don't think that's necessarily going away. And I think a lot of that's going to be tied to the pass rush, like what we just talked about. How good does pass rush end up being?
Yeah.
If the pass rush end up being like unbelievably awesome, they're going to play a crap ton of zone because zone means the quarterback's got to hold on to the ball longer typically. Where man, you can get the ball out faster sometimes. And so for a zone, you got to figure out what zone they're in, and then the pass rush can get there. Like when the Seahawks were doing their thing with their cover 3, they were able to get away with that because the pass rush was nasty. And we'll see what the pass rush does. If the pass rush is not like they don't have quick winners on the pass rush, I could see them playing more man.
I just love coverage takes like it because the TV copy doesn't show it. So at maximum, you have like 55,000 fans at Kroger Field who can watch the coverage and see what it was. Half of those people, or I would say more, you're not focused on the coverage on that play. Like you watch the ball. Like everybody gets caught watching the ball. It's the game, So like, that's why I just love coverage takes because people just get very mad on pre-snap alignment stuff, and it's not usually the pre-snap alignment that gets you beat. It's the execution at the top end. I've got a little bit of faith in the secondary, but that's not me just coming in being sunshine pumping bullish, even though it probably feels like I have been. Here we hit some things that I'm liking. I'm a big fan of. Didn't like to hear about that injury. That stunk because really thought Harley Gilmore was going to be a nice flash to get people excited for something next year because there is going to be a huge roster turnover. And I was trying to think about it like it. I know the schedule posters aren't as big of a deal as they used to be, but you used to have who are the 4 or 5 guys that they would put on the schedule poster for next year? Like who would that even be? Brock if he returns, but then who?
I mean, if Gilmore was healthy, I think he'd flash. He's the guy. Macklin if he came back. I mean, you just don't know who's on the team, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. So this is a fun exercise though. I like that. I didn't do my Mad Dog Rousseau. I'm sorry. I'm not. I don't have enough fire and brimstone for that, but I am fired up to get back in the grind. It's been a grind back here like it, but we're pushing through. We're pushing through at the route.
How much? And I think we're going to open up the chat for questions. So fire those off, and we'll get to some. But how much? So what's the sleep like? Everyone wants to know the sleep schedule.
Well, that's the thing. Is just baby. Like I've basically taken the first. I take the boys. I got them. I'll let mom deal with baby. And so that applies to at night too, because she handles the feeding and all that sort of stuff for the most part. But there is just like some nights where she's like, yeah, I don't feel like sleeping for this next until I eat next. So, last night I was up till midnight instead of going to bed early for her to eat. And then she ate and then put her down and she stayed. And then apparently she decided from 4 to 6 she wasn't going to sleep. So I got tagged in at 6. So yeah, but that isn't too bad. It's just we're dealing with some jealousy issues. And when I hold baby, 2-year-old wants to be held too, and I'm like, dude, I'm sorry, can't pick you
Yeah,
up.
they don't really prepare you for.
That.
You had the one kid you don't know anything, so it's obviously that. So you're trying to get
Yeah,
used to like how that works. But when you have the second kid, you're like, I got this. I can get in this routine again. But then they don't. Then they don't realize like, oh, I'm running on 3 hours of sleep, and I have to deal with the 2-year-old.
yes, that, yeah, and the whole like at least with 2-year-old is napping still, so like we're fortunate there, and then 4-year-old can like zombie out on the couch for me to take like a nap while the other two are napping. So yeah, it hasn't been that bad, but it does feel like it's just constant where you're like, I mean, I had that thought today, like, shit, this week's gonna be over with before I know it. I'm gonna be like, how's this gonna work when I gotta work? Grandma, grandpa, get over here.
Takes a village. Takes a village.
Yeah, you're damn right it does. Damn right it does.
Hey, we got another over under here.
Okay.
Speaking of over unders, I think next week, Nick, get ready, get your picks in if you find some time,
Okay. I'll do some homework.
and we'll do our picks. Our
Because week
overall
0,
season win totals episode next week.
you got your Florida State one ends.
Yeah,
if you're
Florida State or Georgia Tech for sure.
yeah.
Over under 5 snaps per game. Gavin Wimsett, Jonathan DeShelter. Those out there.
So I don't think he will. I think he'll average over, but there will be games where he doesn't get 5 snaps. But there might be some games where he gets 15 or 12. So I'm going to say over for the average.
This is all very dependent on number 12 to me. Like, are you really taking Brock Vandagriff off the field for 5 snaps per game if he's willing and dealing, right?
And if he's running it well too. I mean, we talk about how well Gavin runs it, but like Brock, he's got legs too.
I just think of it like this. Like, if Brock's playing well, are you going to take him out in the red zone? Because that's where this Wimsett package would probably be utilized the most.
It's in your money downs. Yeah, you make good points, like it. You make good points.
So a lot of it just depends on how Brock Vandagriff's doing. If it's kind of just up and down for him, then I think I would say over.
Okay.
I would say under right now, and that's mainly a play for me because I'm buying that Brock Vandagriff's going to be a good quarterback for Kentucky this year.
What week would it be where we start seeing more Gavin Wimsett? Like, because I feel like it would be a gradual thing. Like right away, they probably aren't going to take any snaps away from Brock. But I don't think you do it South Carolina or Georgia. I mean, do you do it at Ole Miss? Like that's your next big test? I don't.
Vandy's October 12th.
So around then.
Maybe you do you do a package in the Vandy game, and then maybe you have something for that Florida, Auburn, Tennessee stretch.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that's the time of year where you try to hit defenses with wrinkles, and we hear all the time about in the bye week they try to find some wrinkles. That would be, I think, the time to utilize that. It's probably in that stretch, and I think some of it's going to have to do with the run game, like where they get out of this tailback room, how's the line playing, all of that, and then maybe take some carries away from Brock, specifically in, I think, short yardage type situation. So yeah, very interested to see how that plays out because I went back and watched some Wimsett tape. He was not like, he's not this like bulldozer in the red zone. Like no. It's not like, he's not going to just mow over. He's a good athlete, and you can do some zone read stuff with him. and he can gas you if the run fit is bad. But I'm not. He's not going to be one of the best. He's not one of the best QB runners. I would say he's not in a top tier, but he's a good athlete and can run some. But I don't know if he's like great at it, and so I don't know if you really want to use that package if he's not great at it. It's kind of my take there.
What we got next?
Kid,
Here's the other Wimsatt take I had. I think some of the nice things they're saying about Gavin Wimsatt too is they got him to transfer over. They're happy they got him, and so they got to let's play the game here a little bit.
Sure, it's preseason. Yeah, keep him involved, keep him engaged.
Yeah.
Jonathan also asked him, Wimsatt hit the long ball. He can, but it's all the intermediate and short stuff and decision making and playing on time. It's kind of his struggles. But if you had like this gadget package, you could just put him in there and run it 4 or 5 times and try to hit a bomb. He can throw the deep ball. He throws a pretty deep ball. We saw that in practice.
I like this question. Over under 30 points a game.
You got to play the under, don't you? They've only done it twice, 2016 and 2021.
Yeah, they were 29.9. I mean, they're really close to it. So yeah, I think you got to play the under. That is the magic number. It's crazy that is just like the right there where it's at.
Yeah.
I will
now
say
Bush twice in 3 years he's been over 30 points. He was over 30 in 2019. And Boise State was over 30 last year. So twice in 3 years as a play caller.
Has to come down to two is how good are the defenses you're playing, and like they got to be scoring more than 30 points against South Carolina. No, probably not Georgia. Ole Miss is the one that I'm not gonna like. I'm really selling on Ole Miss, even though they loaded up defensively in the portal. Like I'm just not. Like the defense should be better, but I'm not buying it yet. I'm being tepid about it until I see it. But some of the Vandy, you should be able to score a bunch of points on. I don't know about we didn't. I don't know if you talked about it at all. The running back injuries in this league.
Yeah, I wrote about it Sunday.
Yeah. And so CJ Baxter at Texas, I missed that one completely. Ruben Owens at A&M. The one that just really gets me fired up, and I'm glad I'm not here for it, is Shane Beamer acting like Rocket Sanders. He's missing scrimmages, but he's totally fine. It's like, dude,
he's coming off an injury-riddled season. Yeah.
You did the same thing with Juice Wells last year, and that guy never played. He played like the first game, and he kept coming out of the game because he was hurt, and he just never played again. So, fool me once, Shane. You're not fooling me twice, buddy.
Yeah, that's definitely, I think, something to monitor. I think, going back to the 30-point game conversation, Nick, Bush had a 1,000-yard rusher at Boise State. He had a 1,000-yard rusher both years at Washington. He had a 3,000-yard passer 2 years at Washington. And then last year we saw the passing game kind of take a step back. But the two quarterbacks that started combined for 29, it looks like 2,900 yards. Yeah, which was right under 3,000. So, what's interesting to me is, he's hit some check marks here. Like, a 3,000-yard passer, Kentucky's never hit. 1,000-yard rushers, he's hit every year. So, what's more likely, a 1,000-yard rusher, a 3,000-yard passer? I would assume a 1,000-yard rusher for how Kentucky wants to play, but, you kind of look at the personnel. The 3,000-yard passer might be more likely, especially if Vandegrift's good, off the jump. So, that's very, I think, intriguing to watch to see kind of what that offense looks like. And if they come well short of any of those kind of standards that he's hit, I think it's going to bring some questions like, what's going on? Why can't we ever get this offense rolling?
Well, let's get it rolling. Let's get it rolling. Rolling.
Yeah, our friend Shaka says you definitely look like that third kid hits different there, Nick.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
silence says it all right there in that answer.
The other thing too is it's easier to pawn off one kid. Pawning off two kids on somebody can be a lot. So
yes, we felt that pretty hard ourselves.
It's a whole different ball game. Now you can, if they're sleeping good, you can just wait to go out and have somebody come over once they're sleeping, and that works. But then you're like, well, then I'm missing out on sleep. So.
Yeah, I mean, like, you date night, you go out for drinks, you're thinking about, should I have that third beer? Because that'll cause some grogginess, and I can't really have some grogginess on some of these Saturday and Sunday mornings.
Oh yeah, it was Saturday and or maybe Friday. I mean, days run together. Regardless, it was a nice day outside. I was like, oh, we're out on the porch, we're having a good time. Let me crack a beer. And I had two, and I was like, oh, this is kind of. And I was ready to go to sleep. It just made me tired. That's all it did. Tasted good, but it just made me tired. So I'm gonna have to conserve the energy. I do think I found another hack too outside of just the coffee. It's a Super B complex, just a bunch of vitamin Bs. Like, get moving a little bit. That'll get us going. Get the people going.
Save that for Derby.
Hey, but we'll hit the ground running. I guess we're going up to Lexington together Thursday. Get to talk to Brad White. So yeah, slowly dip my toes slowly back into things. But
I mean, they haven't. Usually it gets quiet around this time. It hasn't happened yet, so it seems like they are pleased with how camp is developing. I think.
I love that somebody on the board which pointed out that we haven't had the I hate everybody, everything sucks practice yet, where there's nothing more fun than being in there on purpose and just watching Stoops just fume from the podium. And it happens less often now because he only talks after scrimmages, and he himself is going to reserve judgment on scrimmages until after he watches the film. Because, you can feel pretty one-sided, one way or the other sometimes. But I love when you get just the middle of the week, like some people, they gotta want to be here. They are acting like they want to be here, and you'll get people that ask questions, like they try to get more out of you to ask more questions, and they just shut it down. They're like, "This is bullshit." Like
you also get
this.
The wall answers. We haven't gotten the wall answers yet. Like, oh, we're hitting the wall.
Yeah, that's like after this next scrimmage, because they probably still want something, more out of it. But
or this week, I would say these next 2 days. That's kind of when the wall comes.
Danger zone.
Yeah.
Well, I'm entering my danger zone, Luckett, so I'm gonna peel on out of here. All
right, man. Good seeing you. Good seeing all you people on YouTube. Hit that like button for us before you get out of here. We really appreciate it. And smash that subscribe button. And also, we got to shout out our guy Andy Ledecky.
Oh yeah.
We didn't get, Roush got on here and I got off kilter here.
I distracted you from Andy Ludicky and his wonderful franchising opportunities.
Yeah. If you are wanting to find a way out of corporate America, wanting a side hustle business or a way to diversify, reach out to Andy, as he's got a ton of knowledge in this world. And best of all, his services are 100% free to you. And always, after you finish this post or after you finish this podcast, you can learn more. Reach Andy at myperfectfranchise.net. Just like Roush is having to diversify some tasks at home, dealing with 3 kids, Andy can help you diversify your business. And he's actually taken some On3 members, board members, have come and contacted him, and they've increased their cash flow, doubled and tripled in some cases. So give Andy a call if you're trying to increase your cash flow, and he can help you out there at myperfectfranchise.net.
Shout out Andy Ludicky, one of our favorite sponsors. You all are our favorites. Appreciate y'all tuning on. Glad to hop on and chop it up for a little bit. But yeah, I'm gonna go make sure my wife doesn't kill me. So hey, go Cats.
Good luck. If it's a long night, hope you find, I don't know if you got your show or not, whatnot, but
yeah,
good luck.
Yeah, documentaries.
Cartel Cowboy, we started last night. That was very intriguing on Apple TV Plus. Highly recommend. I'm only one episode down, but very interested in that. So I'm sure you're finding, you're probably just watching some Hitler documentary. I know you're into the World War II stuff now.
Just finished it the other night. So now we're on to the Muppets. Love me some Muppets, but appreciate you all, and we'll see you soon.
See you guys.